It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, we are talking about something that I think almost anybody under 30 will never, ever, ever achieve. No, not happiness. I'm talking home ownership. And it's probably one of the things that you get most excited about in your life, right? I mean, it's a taste of freedom. It's a new beginning. But the sad reality is, yes, for most people in their 20s and 30s, they are a long way off from that. But somebody that I know just got their first house. And it's an exciting time, naturally, but they're doing things a little bit strangely, maybe a little bit too intrusively. That's what we're talking about on The Scribble, starting right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on The Scribble, homeowner times 2, actually, not to rub it in, but I am. You know, there's this new trend of people posting a shot in front of their house on social media after they've made a purchase, right? You've probably seen this, right? The couple with their arms around each other, they're holding the giant key, you know, like they just won Publishers Clearinghouse and that giant check. And so most of the time that ends up being an advertisement for the realtor. So, I mean, if you want to do free advertising for the person you're giving a big chunk of change to just for finding a house, all right, that's up to you. I wouldn't, but whatever. But secondly, I mean, you're literally broadcasting to the world, this is where I live, which, you know, you could also argue and say, well, back in the day, the phone book would do the same thing, right? All they would have to do is look up my dad's name or my last name, or, you know, and there's my address, right? Okay, fine. But at the same time, that's limited to people, you know, in the city, and it, you know, and sometimes you could even just have a first initial. Like, I got a phone line when I was 15 years old, I think it was. I was a grown-up kid, let me just be clear. So I was living with my parents, and I had, obviously I'm a talker, and I wanted to get my own phone line. I paid for it, though, so it wasn't given to me. But at the time, you had to have your name listed in the phone book. Or else, this is what I never understood, or else you would have to pay to be unlisted from the phone book. So you had to pay for your own privacy. I found that to be odd. So I don't remember what I did, but I found a way around it to just have my first initial and no address. I was already preparing for a life of secrecy. I just kind of was like, I think my life is going places. I'm going to be a newspaper reporter. I'm going to be, you know, in the daily news. I can't have my, you know, my stuff advertised. So I was just a first initial and no address. Now, I can't tell you how many people called me all the time thinking that I was my aunt because she has the first initial as me. But anyway, so yes, you know, privacy is something that people just don't necessarily take into consideration nowadays. And a lot of times that's even with your kids, right? I mean, think about when somebody gives birth, that first picture ends up on social media within minutes. And then the extent, until the kid is however old they are to say, Mom, Dad, put away the goddamn phone already. But the kid's life is pretty much exploited on social media from the minute they're born. And I've always kind of had an issue with that. Now, we don't have kids, so I don't really care. But, I just kind of look at that and go, I realize that you want the attention and you're proud of, your situation. But at the same time, there's, Subway perverts out there, Jared, jerking it to your kid in their little Josie and the Pussycats Halloween costume. So maybe think about something like that. But anyway, let's talk about home ownership, though. Oh, yeah, so advertising the realtor. I mean, that's your prerogative if you want to do that. But I think about it going, okay, wait a second. If I just bought a $500,000 house and my realtor is getting a commission on that, he's getting thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for showing me through a house, showing me through 2 houses, 3 houses until I made the decision. Yeah, you know what? You should be paying me if you want to be featured on my Facebook page. All right, let's just make that very, very clear. So anyway, so the person that I know just bought their house, and of course they do that, it's like the first day of school thing, stand in front and be excited, which is great, be excited. But then there was practically a walking tour like it was MTV Cribs. And again, I'm talking to an older generation for this one. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where the cameraman is at the door, and then the person comes to the door. Oh, hey, welcome to my house. Come on in. That was MTV Cribs. Or maybe even Lifestyles of the Rich. No, not Lifestyles. Yeah, was it Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? Robin Leach would take people through. I met Robin Leach at the at some country music awards in Las Vegas. And I remember being in the press room and I saw him and I thought, why is Robin Leach, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, why is he covering country music awards? It was very weird. I was tempted to approach him and, oh, it's nice to meet you, whatever, but I was still trying to piece it together and figure it out. I'm weaving today in the stories that I'm telling. So, so the person had basically posted, a video tour of, oh, come on in. And again, it's fine to be excited. But it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of strange. I could understand if it was a really big, flashy... My husband and I have 2 very, very nice houses. One of them, the ceiling in our living room in Canada is... I don't even know how tall it is. It's like, I don't know, they call it cathedral or something. Like it's like a 2-story house. And then he's got a full actual gym in our basement. Now, we're not talking, a bedroom with a bike and a weight bench in it. It's a full... it's got the flooring and the spongy kind of, I don't know what you call that stuff. I don't use it. He's got his room. I've got my radio studio. Yes, and we actually have an entire a little legit radio studio. Again, not a little like a Walmart desk or TV tray with a computer and a microphone. No, it's an actual radio studio. That's how long ago I was in radio, and we had it built into the house before the pandemic, way before the pandemic. So I haven't even given video tours of our house just because it's our house. If we want you to know what it's like, you'd be invited in. So the person gives this, big video tour and kind of explains everything. And I guess I'm watching it, and halfway through, I was just sort of thinking, they really think, I think that this house is going to become part of like a reality show, their reality show. They're going to make this, everything. Oh, my first time cooking in the kitchen. Here we go. Come cook with me. And then the first time they're tanning in the backyard, it's going to be, enjoying in my backyard. So one, it's obviously, yes, it's rubbing it in the face of people who won't own a house. And that's sort of the idea of this episode today too. What is the point of the show? I don't, sometimes we don't have to have one. It's just a matter of, it's something to talk about, so let's do it. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you the weird things that I did when I first got my house. All right, that's coming up. Don't worry, I'm not just taking shots at other people today. But yeah, it's just kind of strange because then there's all these. So after the video, then of course there's all these poses, and there was all this photography of moving in. So the moving truck, and then the boxes in the living room, as though it was like a step-by-step or a 4-part mini-series. Just, the purchase of the house and setting it up and moving it in and taking pictures of everybody else unloading their things. When I moved into my house, it was, I think, almost my entire family. And I only moved, by the way, my parents' house from my house in Winnipeg is not even a 5-minute drive. I walked there with my dog. So they're about 25 minutes away. So I didn't even move, across the city or even across a country. I was within walking distance, not carrying boxes and stuff like that though. So we didn't rent, a big truck or anything. It was kind of just like my parents had a minivan, my brothers, one of them had a truck, the other one had an SUV. And I mean, how much stuff do you really have when you're 20s living at your parents' house, right? You've got your bed, which is probably your biggest piece of, I didn't have a couch. So yeah, your bed is really your biggest piece of furniture, your biggest move, which is taken apart anyway, right? It's not like you just come travel, you don't stick it on the roof. Your mattress, yes, we crammed that into the back of my parents' van. But yeah, I didn't have moving trucks. Now, one thing, if I'm moving from one house to my actually furnished house to another, sure, that's going to need at least, 2, perhaps even 3 trucks. We just have a lot of things. We've lived in the house for 19 years, right? So and there's 2 of us now, so there's a lot of stuff. So it's kind of interesting to kind of watch the moving day play out, and that's fine. And then every first is shown, right? So the first night of watching TV, you're gonna have it dimly lit and the candles and then I sit there and go, are you really enjoying the first night, or you've made it a production, right? You've made it a storyline. You've made it a feature, and now you're directing it, and now you're producing your first night, and it's like, just enjoy the night. I will tell you the first night that I spent in my house, again, a little bit weird, but it was for me. It wasn't for everybody else. And that's I go on all these rants about social media, but that's kind of the thing is, did you buy your house for the attention now? Or is that now this is going to be an extension of your personality and your social media? Like, oh my God, okay, you got a house. Yay, you got a house. Okay. And especially, like I said, if I'm not a homeowner and I'm a bitter person who's got 17 roommates in a cramped apartment, and we have to share a bed because there's no room for everybody, I'm going to be a little bit pissed off, right? And I'm not saying that you downplay. Trust me, I've run into this my entire life. For, the success that I've had and the amount of money that I've made, you have this sort of inner dialogue. And I actually saw somebody with whom I worked before. She, I guess, got criticism. I don't remember what exactly happened, but I remember her she posted something like, I will not apologize for being successful and having the things that I have. So I think what happened was maybe she bought a car, maybe she bought a house. I really don't remember what it was, but I remember her rant, clapping back and saying, look, I'm sick of people either being pissed off or bitter or jealous that I'm happy with the things that I have in life. I've been successful, I've worked hard, I've got an education, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of sat there going, yes. Not that I brag about myself. Like I said, we have 2 houses and both of them have pools. I have never, except for I guess maybe with the dogs in the pool, I haven't posted, just really lounging in our backyard on this hot summery day, just enjoying a cocktail, because that's so gross and pukey. And secondly, like I said, the last thing that I want is somebody finding out where I live and coming and harassing me. As it is, this is actually true. So the 19 years in my house in Canada, I would say, let me do some quick math in my head. I'm not a math person. I would say that 85% of my family, so that's your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, all the extensions, the relatives. I would say maybe even 90% of my family has never been in our house. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. On my dad's side of the family, only my cousin-in-law, one. She's not even my cousin. She's married to my cousin. One cousin, and because she helped me clean the house one day. That is true. That's true. She was, why did she do that? I don't remember if she was just bored or something, or wanted to come see the house, and then she ended up cleaning the house with me because she ended up lining the burners of my stove with tinfoil and doing some things for me. And it was the funniest thing that I had company over and they basically cleaned the house. So there you go. That's actually why nobody wants to come over. They're like, oh, I'm going to fix things. I'm going to have to work. So on my dad's side of the family, yeah, only my cousin-in-law has been to the house. On my mom's side of the family, I've had, a couple people came through, like my aunt and uncle came through because I gave them a tour when I first bought the house. And then one of my cousins house sat, and so she watched the dogs with her son. But again, nobody, I'm trying to think. So like my other cousin, her brother and his wife, no. My other aunt and uncle, no. My immediate family has, because like I said, they helped me move in. And then just throughout the years, if they've come over, brought me something or whatever. We don't entertain socially at our house. That's the thing. So to have, let's say, my parents over for dinner, we don't do that. So that's never happened, even with anybody. Jeannie, she's one of our producers. I went to school with her. Her and her boyfriend were over in the early days, and we'd ordered pizza one night. But yeah, we don't entertain in our house. We'll go out somewhere or we'll go to somebody's place, but we don't host things because again, there's just that we don't cook, first of all, and then secondly, we also don't clean. We've got somebody that cleans too, so it's just kind of like, you know what, I don't want to have to worry about that. And then making sure this is right and this is that. Do we have people individually over? Yes. But generally, we avoid it if we can. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the house. We just don't, I don't know. That's just how it is. So I'm going to talk about they're a little bit bizarre things that I did when I first moved into my house on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
All right, Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Some insider information just quickly for you. When we do this show, there's a glass of cold water and a glass of hot water. And then sometimes, if I'm feeling wild, or my team feels wild, they'll mix it up a little bit. And there's a glass of ginger ale usually. But we can't do anything fizzy, right? Because then you get burpy. So if we do have ginger ale, like there is today, they will put some water in it to water it down. And then it also doesn't make that fizzing sound when you put the glass. So I can have a sip or I can do whatever and you wouldn't even notice it. Today it's not watered down as much. So if I get burpy, you know what? I'm going to let them rip on the show today. That's how we roll on this show. I think that's one of the charms of doing this podcast, right? Some people just, they heavily edit the podcast and they take out, if you listen really closely with your earbuds right in your ear, you can hear when people take out things because the breath is kind of weird, or the consistency in the tone of the voice or whatever it is. And we don't do that on this show. There isn't a break where all of a sudden I'm talking and then it sounds like this because I changed that. Yeah, we don't do that. We go just like it's a live radio show. That's how we do this. If there's a screw up, if there's a whatever, we let it roll. At the same time, I mean, after 20 years in broadcasting, you kind of know how to talk without having to, make those edits. So for the amateur, the beginner, the novice, the rookie podcasters, there's some tips for you. Learn how to speak 3 goddamn sentences without needing a jump cut. That's the worst on YouTube videos, I've got to say. That's why I have to just listen to YouTube videos if people are sitting in their bedroom, on their webcam. I can't watch it. Because if after every sentence the picture jumps because you've taken something out or you've done another take, I just can't. So one of the things that I could was when I was looking for my house, I was managing editor at a publishing company. And so I was still, as I said, living in my parents' basement. I had a realtor For me, it was easier, you know what, have a gay realtor who's interested in you and, you know, wants to get with you because they're going to treat you well. Mine was an older guy. I was the cute young blonde guy, whatever. And so I would be working at the publishing company, and then he was doing his job of looking up houses or whatever. And I didn't really have anything on my requirement list except for a bathtub, because I'm a bath person. And so for me, I said, it doesn't need to be a giant bathroom, just at least a tub, ideally a fireplace, because I've kind of always liked that vibe, that mood. And then I said it needs at least 2 bedrooms, because I'm going to have an office for my actual work and then a bedroom. And then I'd always wanted a dog, so I said it needs a yard. So really, right, how difficult is that for a wish list? 2 bedrooms? Well, that's most houses. A bathtub? That's most houses. Fireplace, would be tough. But then he also said to me, that could be, like insurance could be more. And, so really, like, are you going to use it that much? You could always just get like a gas one that's not like, like a pretend kind of one. I said, but that's fine. I didn't want necessarily a wood burning, but just, for that ambiance. And so he said, okay, but even then, like an electric or whatever, or a gas fireplace is still going to put up more of a price tag. I said, remember, this is 20 years ago. The houses were not very expensive back then. And then a backyard. So, I mean, that was my list of requirements, really. I'm the most simple person in the world. So we found a bunch of them, and Winnipeg is not a very big, well, it wasn't really it's bigger now, but it wasn't as spread out as it is now. It's certainly not Toronto or Vancouver, New York, or Los Angeles. It's not even close. You can drive from one end of the city to the other in a matter of 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and that's, with decent traffic or whatever. So I didn't want anything too far from where I was working at that publishing company, which coincidentally is kind of in the neighborhood of my parents' house anyway. So we looked at a couple, and it's kind of weird because when you're going, at first it's exciting for all of them, right? Because you're not necessarily picky, you're kind of not seeing certain things, and then once you've gone through a few houses, then that's when you're noticing, okay, well that first one had this and that, and now you're comparing them, right? And now you're going and saying, well, this one isn't as great. The rooms are kind of small in this one. Oh, you become a bit of a snob after a while. But yeah, the first couple of them, you're just like, oh my God, I'm in somebody's house and I could have this. This could be mine. Oh, well, I don't really like this. Oh. So we didn't look at very many. I mean, we looked at a few of them in my parents' neighborhood, which isn't necessarily the best neighborhood, and I didn't really like them. There was one other one that was kind of across the river, and I would say it was about 20 minutes drive, so not too bad. I think I did put an offer in on that one, but did not get it. And then there was one that was, again, coincidentally, like I said, a 5-minute drive from my parents' house, that when it opened up, it was everything. It was just like, almost like a miracle. You can have your fireplace. You can have your bed. You can have, how many bedrooms do we have? 5. You can have, the big basement, which later, houses my husband's gym now because he's a fitness model and bodybuilder, and that's part of his job. You can have a pool. You can have the backyard with a pool. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. So the house went on the market on a Wednesday. And so what was happening was when he would find houses, when the realtor would find houses, we would go on my lunch break at work. So he would come to the office, he would pick me up, and he would say, okay, we've got 2 of them, or we've got 3 of them, or there's one, and it's actually not too far away. Okay, let's go. And so we would go on my lunch break. And sometimes we'd take a little bit longer, right? Because you want to go and savor the moment. So we would go, and it's funny because he was able to read me very quickly with either my facial reactions or the way I was reacting. And he would actually stop me. We wouldn't even go through the entire place. He would just kind of see, okay, I'm getting you. Like I'm reading you. I get you. This isn't the one. And so that's how he was able to kind of narrow it down rather than show me the ones that I wouldn't be interested in. So what he would do was he would then send me the links to some of them. Again, remember 20 years ago, technology, social media wasn't, so you did have some of the listings on the websites, but you didn't have video tours and things like that. And so he would show me some of them before we would go, and he would just be like, these are the 2 that I didn't think that you would like. And sure enough, he was right. So he was very good. And so we went to this one on a Wednesday, and he said, we went through, I liked everything about it. The colors, I said, this is a place where I could come in. I don't have an eye for things like that. Oh, I'm going to make this room this color. I'm going to change this. Oh, the carpet needs to be changed. I'm going to do this. I was like, I'm fine with everything. Love the kitchen cupboards. Love the, everything. And like I said, I wasn't this big high-end hoity-toity kind of thing. And so we spent, I think, the most time in that house than we did any of the other ones. And he said, yeah, you've really kind of, we've walked through it about, like 3 times because you've just gone from room to room and enjoyed everyone. And so he said, I mean, if you want it, let's do up the, let's do up the offer. Let's go for it. But it's going to have to be quick because, again, this is something that it's probably going to be swept up very fast. So sure as shit, we end up, we went to my parents' house, actually, so you're kind of making a triangle from the house that I was at to my parents' house to the office. We were all kind of very sort of close by each other. And so I had keys to my parents' house, obviously. So I was like, all right, yeah, let's just go there. Let's do up the offer. So we're sitting at the kitchen table, and I was just like, this is hilarious because my parents don't even know that I'm looking at houses. So when you think about when you're a teenager or when you're young, you're sneaking people in, right? Maybe you're having sex or you're doing drugs or whatever. Here I am sneaking a realtor into my parents' house. But they did not know that I was looking at houses. They had no idea because I was doing all this stuff at work. It's not like I was going in the evening, right? Or first thing in the morning. And I was going from the office. Nobody knew. So we go, and it's a very exciting time, right? Because it's like, okay, let's put in the offer. Well, I don't remember if I had to sign things or what we did, but I just remember sitting at the table. And so he's like, all right, I'm hoping for you, fingers are crossed, whatever. And by the Thursday afternoon, so the sign went outside the house on Wednesday, first thing, Wednesday morning. And by Thursday afternoon, it was like, you know what? It's yours. It was a fast sale. Not that there was anything wrong with it. There was nothing. I didn't have to make any changes when I moved in. Everything was great. And I'm trying to think. I got new windows put in, but that was again just because I wanted to. Like it wasn't. It's not like they were broken or anything. I just had them put in so they were more energy efficient. And then again, I remember going back to my parents' house to do the actual paperwork and everything like that. And then you have to, I had to go to a lawyer. And so I went downtown to just sign paperwork. And they give me this little brown envelope, tiny, tiny brown envelope. Like you would have, like if you go to the Lost and Found or something and you've lost your ring. And it's this little, and it was my keys in it. And I thought, oh my God, here's my keys to my house. Now, the thing is that, your possession date, I don't remember what mine was. Let's say it was February 1st. Okay. So you can't go in there January 31st at 10 p.m. because they technically could still be in there. So I was with my friend James. I remember this. We were hanging out and I said, I get my house at midnight. Let's go to my house. Do you want to go to my house? And so my friend James was the first person to come through, and it was literally minutes after midnight. So we drive to my house, and we park in the front, and we go, and I open the door at 12:00 whatever, or 12:10 or 12 something, but almost literally right after midnight. And so we go in. Now the funny thing is that the living room didn't have any actual lighting, so you needed lamps for the room. And then a couple of the rooms didn't have light bulbs. I guess that's a thing, that you take the light bulbs. So it was a little bit weird, right? But it's still my place. And so obviously there's no furniture. There's nothing, there's literally nothing to sit on. And so what we had done was we had brought some candles, or maybe we went to get them. I don't remember what we did though. If I had candles or if we brought them, we came back and brought them. But it was kind of funny because we sat on the living room floor just talking, and I was I would have done a cartwheel. I'm pretty sure I didn't, but I would have done the big open living room, just, this is my place. But it was kind of funny to go in there and just hang out, just sit on the floor. I can't get you a drink. I can't offer you anything. We don't have anything here. And then because I moved in the winter, it was so we were on the floor kind of right by the furnace vent, because it was just kind of like when they had moved out, which would have probably been days earlier, the furnace was turned down, right? They didn't have anything on, so it was freezing in the house. And so yeah, for the first little while we were on the floor right by the furnace vent. It was Canada in the winter. Come on. So that was my first quote unquote first night in my house, was that. And then the funny thing was that I ended up telling my parents after I got the house. So that night, so February 1st, let's say, and I'm there with James, I didn't tell my parents that I bought the house until February 2nd or 3rd. So it was already in my possession for days before I told them anything. So that day that I told them, they were together for some reason. I don't remember if my parents were shopping or if I don't know why. But I remember my mom calling the house and saying, we're going to Subway. Do you want Subway? We'll come and get you, and then we'll go to Subway. So, it was like 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the evening. So when they came to the house, they picked me up, and I said, okay, let's go down these streets. Which Subway was in the other direction. So they were kind of like, well, why? I said, I want you guys to see something. I want to show you something. And my parents are not the most easygoing, like, oh, okay, let's go. They were like, what? Just, what is it? What? Like, just tell us what. So yeah, so they're buzzkills. So we end up going around, and so I get to the street and I say, okay, just keep going. Now, if it was closer to Christmas, they would think that I wanted to show them, a Christmas decoration setup or lights or something. So I think that's kind of where that's where their heads were. So we get to the street and I said, okay, go and stop. And they're like, what? I said, that house. And I pointed, I said, that's mine. I bought it. And I think, obviously, because I was the last kid at home, my brothers had already moved out. They were married. They moved out. And I think it was a shock because, here's the youngest, the baby, is all of a sudden, what? He bought a house. So instantly, my mom was just defensive and, well, why would you, you didn't even, you bought that, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, not even excited for their kid. Wow. Well, you know what then? Fuck you. Let's go to Subway. And I didn't even enjoy it because the whole time they were very critical of it. And again, I thought you should be excited that your kid is, spreading his wings and moving out. I was 24 or 25. I don't remember. I was 25. I was 25 when I bought it. Thank you, Bonnie. Bonnie was one of the first people to come through the house. Coincidentally, that's right. She and my friend Jeannie, we all worked together. And so we ended up doing a group trip from the office. That's right. So I was 25 when I bought him. Bonnie, sharp as a tack with that memory. Jeez. Because that's right. She's saying that her grandson, that's right, Dylan is the same age as, I bought the house the same year her grandson was born. And he's, okay, there you go. We got it. The math is mathing for Bonnie Winters, everybody. So I tell my parents I dropped this bombshell, I bought a house. Now, again, it could have been, hey, I'm moving to California. Hey, I'm moving to Tokyo. Hey, I'm moving to Australia. No, I'm moving 5 minutes away from you. And that was the tragedy, right? That was the problem. So, you close the deal, you have however many weeks before you move in. So now we're at February 1st. This is my, possession date. So I have my evening there with James and we're kind of, so then we waited until the weekend, to actually move in, right? Because that's when everybody was free and whatever. And, it was, again, kind of funny because, like, where do you want these boxes? Oh, where do you want this one? Where do you want this one? And then my brother's in my office setting up my desk, and then the other brother's upstairs, putting together my bed. And it is true. You are kind of walking around like a supervisor. It's sort of like on Hoarders, right? They have everybody else doing the work, and they're not even the one, like, it's their place, and they're not even help clean up. So I was kind of supervising this here, kind of helping put stuff away. My sister-in-law was putting liner in the kitchen cupboards, and another one was, kind of cleaning the bathroom and, wiping the walls, and my parents were, moving things, and it was just kind of funny. Now, again, you have nothing to offer anybody, and this was before the days of Uber Eats and DoorDash, whatever, so it's not like I could just order food. So I went with my brother to the store. We just got, like a 6-pack of Coke or something, and, bags of chips and whatever, and I remember thinking, oh, nothing messy though. I don't want grease all over my things. So right away you start to have these kinds of, right? Like now that it's your place, you're like, I hope nobody spills. Oh my God, I hope nobody. And that comes immediately when it's your spot now. It really does. So we did. We unpacked. We unloaded everything. Like I said, as much as I could have. Right. I didn't have a couch or anything at that point. I had gone. I was hanging out. I was seeing a guy at the time. So I looked at a couch. But again, why would I have it delivered before I'm actually in my house? Right. Like that's just going to be. I'm going to have to move something twice. Right. So I didn't have furniture. So that was also kind of a good thing. Right. You don't really want people hanging around. It's like, okay, unload it and then get out of my house. Because there's nowhere for you to sit. Nobody brought lawn chairs. It was like, okay, well, all right, let's get going. So then you're appreciative of their help, and then they go. But I did have a TV. I did have an entertainment unit. I bought those things when I still lived with my parents. And so I just didn't have, an actual furniture. I mean, I had a bed upstairs, so I had a little TV that I, watched. But yeah. So for the first couple weeks in my house, this is absolutely true. I did not sleep upstairs in my bedroom, and I'll tell you why coming up on the Scribble right after this.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
JB here on The Scribble. The weird things that we do when we move into a new place. I want to hear what you've done. Send me an email, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com. So I mentioned in the last segment that for the first couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months even in my house, I did not sleep upstairs in my bedroom. You've got this giant house where you can spread out. You can watch TV in one room. You can sleep in another. You can work in another room. You can eat in another room. Because I had a dining room too. But I did not sleep upstairs in my bedroom. Where did I sleep, you're wondering? I slept on the floor in my living room. I slept on not on the couch. Not on the couch. Why not on the couch? I don't know. I slept on the floor. So, why did my therapist say that I did that? No, I know why I did it. Now, again, I should actually maybe ask a therapist why I did it. But for me, when I was in my parents' house, we had a main floor and we had a basement. So those were easy escapes. Those were easy to know if somebody else was in the house. And I think that I was paranoid that something could be happening, whether it's a fire, whether it's a burglary. The house is so big that somebody else could be on the main floor and I wouldn't even know it. I did not have a dog at the time. This was just me, and I had 2 rabbits, actually. I had 2 rabbits. I did not have a dog. And so I was fearful that overnight, right, I'm upstairs. See, when you're on a main floor or a basement, in the basement of my parents' house, I could hear if somebody comes in the back door, or I could hear the footsteps above me in the house. So you would know. And same thing, like I said, if there's a fire, it's an easy escape. You can either go out the basement window or you can go up the stairs and go out the back door. So for me, mentally, for me in my head, being upstairs, there could be something going on in the basement 2 floors away. And so I was scared. It was just a fear thing. I was far away from the action because the bedroom upstairs is not near either the front door or the back door. And so it ended up being a problem for me that I was just terrified. Now that I've got a big, muscular, strong husband, I'm like, whatever, right? But yes, it was something that every night I slept on the floor of my living room because in my parents' house, my bedroom, the rabbit cage was at the foot of my bed. So even the rabbits were literally a few feet away from me. And that's how it was for the years that I had rabbits when I was growing up. So because the rabbit cage was in the living room, I slept on the floor so that, again, it was literally 5 feet from my feet. Not even 10 feet. It was probably about 5 feet from my feet because that was just the setup that I had. Again, why not on the couch? I don't know. I really don't know. But I slept on the living room floor. Even though I had this giant bedroom upstairs, right? I have all this space for myself. I wasn't using my bedroom. It was several weeks or months. So I mentioned about the guy that I was seeing, the one that I had bought the furniture with. So he didn't live in town. So the one weekend when he came into town, he slept upstairs in my bedroom. And I refused. I absolutely refused. And I wanted him to sleep on the floor with me in the living room. You can imagine why that relationship didn't work out, right? When he's like, I think I got to go. But that's, yeah, it was, I don't know. I just couldn't. It was very strange. It took me a while. It took me a while to go and sleep upstairs in my bedroom. I would come home, as I mentioned about like the TV thing, I had a TV in my bedroom. So I would come home and I would watch TV, my little 13-inch TV that I had on a little table in my bedroom. I would watch TV upstairs while I ate my dinner or whatever I had when I got home from work. But yeah, I did not use my bedroom to sleep. My clothing and everything was up there in closets, but I didn't sleep upstairs in my bedroom. Yeah, isn't that strange? I'm a very weird person. One of the other things that I did, which I kind of, I criticized about that video tour of the person doing that, but I would, anytime that I had somebody over, so let's say my friend Jeannie and her boyfriend, I would literally give a tour of the house. I would start, this is the kitchen, whatever, and I would say the exact same thing. This is the spare bedroom. I think what I'm going to do in here is da-da-da-da-da. This is the bathroom, as though they've never seen a bathroom before. Here's my office, which was just a regular office at the time, and then once the business took off, we turned it into a radio studio, so it's a little bit more equipped now than it was back then. I would take people upstairs to my bedroom, show them my bedroom. I would take them to the basement, show them my rec room, show them my laundry room, and then show them the cold storage room. Yeah, where I had my empty boxes from my plates and all the other crap. I would literally take them to the storage room and show them that. So imagine you've been invited over, and sometimes it was even just people who were meeting me for the first time because, that's how you'd go on gay.com and just chat with somebody, and perhaps they think they're coming over to hook up, which that was never the case for me. I was a disappointment. I got their hopes up, and they were like, he's not putting out. He's giving me a fucking tour of his house. Like, okay, I just saw the laundry room. But I would. So the person would come in, I would show them around. Here's the bathroom, and then it's like, I'm taking you upstairs to see my bedroom. Like, how many people do that? How many times have you gone to see somebody's place? Maybe you look around on your own, and you're kind of like, this is nice, and you might peek around when they go to the bathroom, right? And then, but yeah, I was giving full-on tours, and then it was like, okay, so now we can start the visit. I did that too, yeah. Send me an email, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com, L-I-V-E at jbonair.com. Yeah, I never said that I'm a regular person. I'm not. But we are out of time, so I do want to hear your stories. If you've been in your house for a long time, tell me about that moving day. What was it like? Was it exciting? Was it stressful? Was it scary? And if you've never owned your own place, womp womp. But, I mean, think of how many other great stories you have about having, roommates and stuff like that, right? You probably have a lot more fun than somebody who's sleeping on their living room floor. So, there you go. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up The Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com. Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.